and welcome back to Valoranting. I do want to cuss. I personally think that is fucking bullshit. What can I do for you? What can I do for you, dudes? This is the best produced podcast I've ever been in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Valoranting. It is a beautiful Tuesday morning. It's patch day, and I'm happy to be joined by Matt Morello and my boy Sideshow. How you guys doing? You guys doing all right?
Oh, hi. Yeah, we're okay. Good. I don't know why I spoke for him there as well. I don't know how he's doing.
I like leaving open.
That's my agent. Every question must be directed through Matt first.
Yeah, exactly. I provide the context.
If you guys are wondering out there, does this look a little bit similar to the Overwatch League analyst desk? It's because it is. I want to start with the fact that we're in patch day. It is also the second day of the first strike qualifiers. There is some spooky shit happening with this patch already. It's nearly Halloween. I mean, has there ever been a spookier tournament than first strike, Matt?
It's just gonna get even spookier. I think it's gonna get even crazier because we still don't see the effects of Icebox and Skye in first strike until later. Today's just like a balance patch, right? So like obviously things are going to change significantly now with balance and even with some of the stuff that we've seen on Steel streams this morning. But it's going to get even wilder. I feel like it's gonna just kind of get even more chaotic.
Josh, what are your feelings on a mid-tournament, mid-qualifier balance patch that changes agents, adds some stuff, and also introduces some interesting bugs?
All I can say, Moses, is it feels like home. It feels like home.
I was gonna say, you guys be used to this by now.
We really are, though, and that's the thing. When you live in the reality of a game where they want frequent balance patches for the casual player base, this is the reality that you have to live in. You genuinely do, because this tournament is happening over the course of October to December. You can't just freeze the game for 2 months.
Yes,
you really can't. Right. Like at this developmental stage in Valorant, particularly, you can't just freeze the game for the entire latter quarter of 2020. The game is still in a very nascent state. It doesn't have like big observer tools. It doesn't have the best balance in the world. It doesn't have all the agents that they want to add. These changes are inevitable. And the qualifiers, like they've already begun for Korea and for Brazil. People are just going to be focused on this North America aspect of it because people like to watch North America and mold about it. But it's already going on for a bunch of different areas as well.
Oh, are there other regions? I didn't realize there were other regions to talk about.
Yeah, a lot of them are better as well, Moses.
So let's get some context in here before we start picking apart everything. We also had to Ask Valorant in addition to the patch notes, so we'll start with that. This week's Ask Valorant covers the weekly challenges. Thoughts on adding more weekly challenges? Sure. I mean, obviously, they want people logging into the game all the time. I don't care about this. Let's keep going. I care about weekly challenges. Smurfing is inevitable in ranked games, but I'm curious, what are you doing to discourage Smurfs? Okay, that's people complaining. Well, actually,
telling them to stop.
I want to hear I want to hear this on the. I want to hear this from them a little bit. Hold on, let me read that one, Daniel. Let's go back a little bit. Smurfing always sucks, especially when you have rank on the line. While it's hard to stop Smurfing entirely in a free-to-play game, we're taking action to combat it. Right now, we have a behind-the-scenes system for unrated as well as one that applies to Iron through Diamond ranked players. The latter tracks an individual's performance and notices when a player makes a highly disproportionate impact in the game. We then quickly boost them to harder matches. So this is pretty common. I think that's why players like Wardell have like 7 ranked Valorant accounts and that kind of thing. It's like Smurfing is going to happen, and every once in a while you're going to be, your boy, the dads in the chat, just playing on the weekend, trying to get a couple of games in, and all of a sudden there's just like Wardell in your game, like just owning everybody. It's probably not going to be as frequent as it might think, but every time it happens, it counts for 10 individual occurrences, especially when you're a gold ranked player who probably lives in a world of pain as it is.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they're never going to stop smurfing in a free-to-play game. It's just not. It's just not a thing that they're going to be able to really accomplish. But I guess if they want to kind of diminish the effects of it, that'd be nice, I guess, for some people.
Yeah, I don't really. I mean, smurfing is it's gonna happen. It's gonna be happening, and
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that you're gonna have to deal with. We talked about this last time you were on Matt about the PBE, and I believe last time your opinion was that PBEs are not particularly useful. They're
Yeah.
a good idea, but in practice leave a lot to be desired. But as it turns out, they do have plans to add a PBE sometime in the first half of 2021. I think it's a good it's never a bad thing to have some tests, especially for I would rather them not dump new content into the PBE, but like balance patches
Yeah.
and stuff like that going there would be great. But if there's nothing really exciting to get you onto the PBE in the first place, no one is going to use it, which is kind of your point last time, Matt.
Yeah, nobody's going to go on there to test the balance patches. I mean, we've seen this, Josh and I in Overwatch, and kind of his point at the beginning of the show. I would have loved if there was like some kind of tournament realm where we could have played First Strike on the previous patch, right? That we knew. I mean, it had the micro stutters and whatnot, but at least it didn't have other bugs and things involved with it. And I think it's just a product of the situation we're in right now, right? It's extremely hard to develop these games from home. On top of adding just kind of constant updates, and then to QA it from home is very difficult too. So, I think probably you'll see them do like the PBE with balance changes. Maybe they'll put like agents on there like a week in advance or something like along those lines. But I think from past experience, at least from what I've seen, that people don't really use it as much as the developers would like.
I think they probably would though in Valorant a little more, and I think that it would provide a bit more of a purpose than it does in some other games, because the game is going to be inherently bug prone. I think because you have a lot of abilities that interact with the map, and you can't
Yeah.
as a developer, I think, create the
Go through
perfect
every
maps that
angle.
always work with like you can't go through every single spot in every single map and look at how they interact in every tiny little nook and crevice. But when you get enough monkeys on enough typewriters, they're going to be able to find those spots, especially if they're deliberately
Otherwise known
trying to
as the
abuse
entire
spots.
pro scene.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, or not even the pro scene, just the people that love to make
Everybody.
YouTube videos. Yeah, it's just the public, isn't it? Just monkeys on typewriters constantly spamming tripwires and cams in broken locations whenever they release a new map, and trying to omen teleport out the map, and all of these different things that you simply can't reproduce with a small amount of people unless you had infinite time to be able to do it. So I think it will help them with certain predictable bugs that aren't reproducible easily. You know what I mean? It's stuff like trying to get out the map, but you can't test everywhere on the map if you're the development team, but you can if you just release it to the public and say, go ham.
They could just go the Cyberpunk route and just keep delaying it and never release it.
Let's not talk about that, okay? I wanted to
Great
avoid going on like a sad boy nerd rant, but every time you have something to look forward to this year, it just gets snatched away from you every goddamn time. Well, hopefully we make it every time Cyberpunk gets delayed. Like there's like a bucket of kittens out there who's just crying alone in the dark. I feel so bad for everyone who's just like, only a couple more weeks till Cyberpunk comes out. Just a couple more weeks down the road again, another 21 days. But December 10th. I mean, in the tunnel that is this year. Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get to that light eventually. Let's talk about the patch actually as it's just come out. Some interesting changes here. The first one I think is probably going to be a bit of a siren for some of those people who don't like being blinded by breach for 45 minutes. Great news. Aside from the addition of Icebox and Skye, we also have some buffs to the Initiator class, specifically breach. We did talk about Skye last week. If you want to know more about them, more about Skye, make sure you check out the actual patch notes or go back and watch our VOD from last week. So this is the preamble here. Initiators create concentrated windows of extremely high threat to help their team break onto sites. To this end, we are slightly increasing the duration of debuffs from some Initiator abilities, mostly flashes. Our goal here is to increase the opportunity window that Initiator's teammates have to capitalize on their utility and further differentiate Initiators from duelists. And the money shot here is, of course, the full flash time is increasing from 1.75 to 2 seconds, which if you're doing the math at home, if you have all 3 breach flashes, that means you could have someone completely flashed for 6 total seconds. I'm going to start with Josh here. What do you think of this?
I mean, this is also combined with the previous change, which I think you and a lot of people would just naturally skip over, which is that when you get flashed now, it doesn't fade as quickly at the beginning as well.
Right.
So you're full flashed for longer. So not only are you getting flashed for a longer period of time overall, but the period where you are fully flashed and it's not even fading so you can see anybody at all is even longer too. So combined together, I feel like the thing that I dislike about this, I understand that from a developer's point of view, they want to incentivize people to pick breach. They want to incentivize people to actually turn their flashes into kills and get results out of the agent in a ranked scenario that has less teamwork. I understand that that is the problem. I don't understand how this is the solution, because this, I think, contributes to the problem of feeling like breach is oppressive to play against, whilst not actually creating the follow-up required to actually to capitalize in a ranked scenario. Like, all right, they're flashed for longer, but he still takes a while to take his thing away and to be able to capitalize on your kill. They're just going to have to extend the flash. They have to extend the flash to obnoxious times to play against in order to incentivize you to be able to go and capitalize on that kill. I think it's a very ham-fisted approach to trying to buff the hero or make the win rates go up. It doesn't feel good to me, because you are actively making him worse to play against while only making him minimally better to play as.
I think that the idea here was not for Breach himself to be more effective at following up on his utility, but his teammates. At least that's what it says. But so this is a bit of a, and it actually doesn't really invalidate your point, Josh, is the fact that you're going to have situations here where they're balancing for the entire player base. And there is, and I guess before I jump into those, let's hear it from the actual developer on the breach changes first, so we can kind of have a base here to jump off of.
On the whole, my suspicion is that our initiators should feel stronger and our sentinels should feel slightly weaker. Breach is actually going to be getting like a really minor, like it is a buff. I'm going to put it out there, and I know that there's definitely some community sentiment around Breach feeling really strong right now. Internally, the data does not even remotely back up that sentiment, and we're trying to toe a really fine line between understanding why people feel that way and like what we see in terms of results. Both pick rate and win rate are still like quite low for Mr. Breach. And so we're trying to, I think one of our big theories is that a lot of our agents that have a higher requirement of teamwork actually end up not performing super well, because it's just a lot harder to do, especially in like in a pug environment.
So this is an illuminating clip. I think that there is there's a hole in the logic here, and that is if you're balancing for the entire player base, if you're taking all of the data, yes, you're not going to have as tight a teamwork in the average game than you would in, say, from Iron to Diamond and Diamond to Radiant. So in Diamond and above, you're going to have a higher expectation that your teammates will be performing better and keying off your abilities a little bit better. But in the whole, obviously, they're feeling right now that Breach is not having enough time, or Breach's teammates are not having enough time to play off his abilities. So on the high elo side of things, Josh, I think this is where the most pain is going to be felt versus the mid to, we'll just call it what he did, pug environment. Yeah. So with that in mind, Josh, do you think that there is some flaws in the decision making still?
I think so, a little bit. Obviously this change is going to be felt the most at the highest level, but the thing is, at the highest level, most of the time people are already being able to capitalize on Breach's flashes. So it might not even have that much of an impact, because it doesn't matter if you're flashed if you're already dead, right? Like if people were flashing you and killing you anyway, it doesn't make any difference if you were going to be flashed for 5 extra seconds, because you were still dead within the first 1.75, which is what it was previously. At the lower levels, though, if you are getting flashed now for 2 seconds, I struggle to believe that is the difference maker. between people being able to follow up that extra 0.25 seconds. I think that the core problem here is that people just don't communicate effectively. Like they don't call that they're going to go for a flash. So no one swings to try and follow up on the flash. And you could extend that flash time. You could paralyze the person. But if you're not saying what you're doing, you're not actually going to be able to capitalize. I would love to know, by the way, as well, whether the win rate of Breach scales compared to ranked, compared to your rank. So like, is Breach's win rate actually at a good level when it comes to the high end, you know, Immortal, Radiant, ranked? Is it terrible down in Iron? Does it linearly scale? Like that gives you so much, and that is information that I'm sure the devs have access to. I would love to know that just for my own curiosity.
Same.
But these are the kind of things that I'm sure they're puzzling through of how to fix this obvious discrepancy in the data.
Yeah, I don't believe this kind of fixes what they want, which is more people playing Breach and him feeling more impactful, like in the lower levels. Like we know obviously Breach is extremely impactful at the higher level of play, but like when you go into a game and like to Josh's point, you know, you queue into a Valorant game, nobody says a word. Are you going to play the agent who requires you like to coordinate and follow up on all your utility? Like there's a good chance you don't, which is probably why they see his pick rate go lower. But this doesn't really do that. And I think it kind of leaves an odd spot because if you allowed him to follow up on his own flashes, he essentially becomes like a duelist at that point. So I just think they'll have a tough time kind of treading the line. I don't think this will be extremely impactful at like the highest level. It may just be annoying at times with how long the flash exists and lasts for. But I don't know if this moves the needle in terms of the overall player base wanting to play Breach.
I don't think so either. I think you guys have kind of both brought up great points. The first of which is that communication is probably the basis of why Breach is not feeling as well picked, as well as a high win rate. Because I mean, those two things, if you don't have someone who is playing Breach all the time, they might not be as familiar with this kit. Communication's bad, lower ranks bad. All those things kind of lead to losses more than anything else. Not to mention the fact that I imagine that players who are playing with a selfish mindset, which let's be honest is most of matchmaking, are choosing characters that don't need that support from other players, like your Phoenixes and like this duelists in general, your Omens, maybe a Brimstone here and there, Sage. Everyone that brings some sort of perceived utility both to themselves as well as their individual performance, I think is where you're going to see a lot of these players kind of filtering out, and Breach just doesn't fit that. He is a, you need him in comparison or in a pairing with another duelist to really shine, and that level of coordination is just not seen until the upper levels of matchmaking. So
I mean, he's also
we'll
also the only agent in the game though, Moses, where that exists. Every other agent in the game, even if you think of the most supportive agents you can, like, I don't know, like a Sova or a Sage or something like that, like Sage is always going to be able to follow up on some slow up that she shoots out onto someone. She's going to be able to swing out into it and kill the person because it lasts for long enough. The same with Sova, apart from his drone, which you can use for your own information anyway if you want to, and you can tag people to be able to follow up on them. If you shoot out a recon dart, though, everyone sees them on the map. It's immediately blatantly obvious that you should try and
you don't have to
follow up
communicate it either.
Yeah,
everybody can see it. Yeah,
you can follow up on your own stuff. There's no other agent in the game that is like Breach, where you need somebody else to be working with you. And that to me is like the absolute crux of the issue, and probably why there's such a mad discrepancy between his perceived strength and his actual win rate in ranked. It's just that ranked is not an environment where an agent like that is going to succeed at the beginning of the game. It probably will over time, though. As people get better at the game, it will over time get better and better. You don't want to be in a situation, though, where you buff the crap out of the agent and he's just unbelievably good, and then you have to start dialing him down again. I don't know. Man. He's already so powerful.
I think that he's following the same line that Omen did. I think that Omen was like slowly buffed to now be a, like, he's, would you call him a must pick in most situations? I think we're seeing Omen almost every comp in almost every comp, right? So
I mean, he has like 90 to 99% pick rate.
Yeah. So we'll see where Breach ends up, and I guess the question is where will they stop? Where will the buff stop? But who knows? We're gonna see. But for now, enjoy being blind for a minimum of 6 seconds around. So the other change is coming in specifically to Cypher. His trapwire and spy camera are disabled upon death, which essentially means now ciphers can just say, sorry, I baited you. I didn't want my traps and camera to get discovered. So Killjoy also getting changes. This is a similar change. Killjoy, her alarm bot and turret now deactivate if she's more than 40 meters away from them. Re-entering will reactivate them. The turret cooldown after pickup has been reduced from 20 seconds to 10 seconds, so you can basically move it along with you if you have to go somewhere else without having to worry about not being able to redeploy it. The alarm bot range at which the alarm bot can be detected has been decreased from 9 meters to 7. The cooldown again has been changed, so this is just giving her more mobility and a slight buff to the alarm bot not being detected. A short distance closer, I should say. Nanoswarm range at which nanoswarm can be detected also has been decreased by a little bit. Damage has increased and it now ticks smoother. So this is, I wouldn't really call it a nerf. It's more of like an adjustment to the character. Matt, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's just an adjustment because they probably don't want to see scenarios where like you put an alarm bot in like a garage on Haven and then you just go run all the way to the A site and like you kind of play there with your turret and whatnot. I think it does impact Killjoy on the offensive side of things, like being able to put like a turret or an alarm bot to watch like the team's back as they come through kind of becomes not really a thing now. Especially if you kind of you're doing like these like long type pushes on like a map like Haven. Cypher also, it just kind of promotes more of the, I mean, I think me and Josh kind of have the same opinion. Like with the like Viper, I feel like her issue is like as soon as you die, like everything you have was just kind of useless. I feel like Cypher kind of puts that same onus on, well, now Cypher just needs to stay alive and just bait as long as possible to make sure the wires and the cam like have the full value that they could get in a round. So I think these are both like nerfs, right? But I think it's just going to be more of an adjustment of play for everybody to figure out how to use them in their new forms.
Yeah,
What
I'm
about you, Josh?
inclined when
Adjustment or
I
nerf?
first saw this patch, I was a big well, what's the opposite of fan? A big hater, I
Not
guess.
fan.
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't really
Right.
like the idea of
Don't like
this patch because I thought that Cypher is now incentivized to play very passively in order to get value out of the tripwires. But I think that most of the time ciphers were trying to stay alive in the round as long as possible anyway, because your camera has always been an ability where you get value the longer you stay alive. You can access it, you can take it down, you can put it back up. It gives you a whole area to peek from without worrying about taking damage, and you can cover flanks with it. It's hugely powerful, and you could never use it while you were dead anyway. So that aspect of his kit has not changed, and he was already incentivized to stay alive. He was one of those agents that got value over time. So the tripwire nerf, while it is a fairly significant nerf, is more going to be if you're attacking and you've put tripwires to guard your flank and your Cypher ends up dying, well, now you have to play the round in a much different way. You can't rely on those tripwires to be able to cover your flank. That pick is now much more significant and it means something. Whereas it didn't really mean anything before. It meant, okay, there's no camera on the field, but other than that, you haven't really removed any utility or removed a different way that the attacking team plays. So I think I quite like the Cypher change now that I've thought about it a little more, because I think that, Cypher was a must pick in the game for so long that this just reduces him down to a portion where he's on the same level as everybody else. When it comes to the Killjoy as well, I thought that was a terrible change until I realized how damn big 40 meters is. 40 meters basically covers the entirety of all sites plus mid on most maps. So you can still put your turret in mid to guard mid and anchor the site. Or you can put your turret on the site and go play in mid. And it still kind of covers the distances there. So does this really change how most teams approach the situation with Killjoy? In some situations, but not in a lot of situations.
I think this decreases Cypher's pick rate by a marginal amount compared to Killjoy. I think personally, at least that's and this is just kind of like theory crafting, but unless you're T1, I mean, T1 doesn't really move around that much anyway. So, I mean, at least Brax won't have to worry about it too much. But regardless, it's a bit of an adjustment. I think that this is going to see some changes into how both of these characters play. But we'll let the experts show us through the qualifiers, because we're going to be seeing how that
you want to hot take
immediately. What's that?
You want a hot take?
Hell yeah.
I think that. So.
Oh, here. What is this? This is going to be so dumb, Moses. I'm already ready for it.
Mamba Mode Gaming used to run a composition, right? Where they ran the Viper. They ran We Did on the Viper. And what was really interesting about them is they ran the Viper instead of a Cypher or a Killjoy. They're one of the only teams that had a prevalent composition, a winning composition, that didn't include one of the Cypher or the Killjoy. Because they had Viper in that role where you want to stay alive a lot and kind of not really bait your team, but you still want to kind of stay alive and maximize your potential over the round. With the nerfs to Cypher and the adjustment in how Killjoy plays, there's a possibility that more people experiment with that kind of composition, because we've already seen Viper start to creep into the metagame a little bit with
Tell
some
me the
teams.
composition. Tell me this theory crafting composition. I want to hear it.
So you'd go for something like Viper and Omen, because Viper can't just replace your smoker. You still have to play with a smoker. You go for Viper Omen. You probably go for the like a Breach and a Duelist, something like that. And then your final slot is either another Duelist or the Sova. And so you've essentially got you've got a normal team composition, but without the Cypher or the Killjoy. And you're aiming to play really wide to be able to cover all of the flanks. You still have to play like a super defaulty style to make sure you're not getting flanked constantly. But then you have the Viper to be able to kind of keep people to their sites in case you're looking in. All I'm saying is I've seen tier 2 NA teams run it in the past to some fairly reasonably good success. And just because the Sentinels are decreasing in play doesn't mean that you have to just throw another Duelist in there or continue to run them even if they don't provide the same value. You can experiment. People are allowed to do that. And Viper might be just walking a little legs in there.
I won't accept it. I won't accept these outlandish compositions until Korea starts testing them. So tier 2 NA, you live your best life. But until Korea starts doing it, or maybe a European team or something like that, we'll see.
You don't believe?
I can't imagine. What's that? Say that again.
You don't believe unless you see a Korean team do it.
Yeah, no. It's like if there's anything
that's always
that
been our
potentially
philosophy
has
of the Overwatch League.
Yeah.
I'm glad we can all agree there. I'm getting some hot news coming in from the chat. Potentially, this patch is already being pulled back. So, that's the word on the street from Nerd Street Gamers' official Twitch account, which is essentially a verified news source.
So I saw that there was somebody from, I guess, the development team who was watching Hiko and Steel stream and reached out to Hiko while he was streaming, trying to figure out what this bug was and how to recreate it. That they're actively working on it.
It looks like Sova going in and out of breach smokes, right? Was that not what we noticed? It doesn't matter. Let's you know what? So, let's just show it. Let's just show it so everyone knows what the hell we're talking about. Since we actually had this clip ready. So this is Sova going in and out of. Can we start that again?
That is, I believe, Sage's face popping up out of.
Yeah, it is Sage's. It's the entire skin. It's an unskinned Sage, just appearing for some reason on the screen.
It's
which
part
is
of
I know they wanted
another
to make
where like,
yeah.
How does this happen? Like, how does this? What is the?
They wanted to
back in
make
the meta.
Omen a bit creepier, right? They've been trying to really ham him up, and now we've figured out what he makes his smokes out of. He just skins his opponents. He turns them into smoke.
Skins Sages and makes smokes out of. He's a serial killer.
Oh my
I
God.
always
I'm
knew
gonna
that
make you into a lampshade or something to put around my smokes. All right. Well, that's the bug. So that's the question is now, are they going to roll the patch back? Because again, first strike qualifiers ongoing. So we'll see. There's more in this patch. But now that we've kind of heard of what's happening, we're going to go really fast through it. So Icebox is entering the competitive map rotation. Which I guess basically means, and for those of you guys wondering, the competitive map rotation does not mean we're going to start seeing it in first strike right away. The economy rule set, I wanted to get the big brains opinion on this one. I'm going to start with Josh on this update to the economy rule set here. So just so we can outline what it is. Attackers who lose but survive the entire round without planting the spike receive a reduced number of credits, which would be 1,000. Defenders who lose but survive the entire round after the spike is detonated also receive reduced credits. Again, 1,000. Dying to the spike will no longer count as a death in your KDA. and additional economic information added as a tooltip when hovering over the exclamation mark next to minimum next round in the shop. So I
Yeah.
think that's a forecast of what you're going to be having next round. So Josh, we'll start with you. What do you think?
Well, this isn't a new thing for the genre as well, right? Like we've seen CS:GO have this for quite some time. So the idea being that you're disincentivizing people to save their equipment, or at least you're making the choice a little more complex for them, where they can't just save but still get all of the loss bonus and continue to keep their expensive weapon. They have to choose between the two and weigh up the decision a little more. I don't think that it's going to make a large difference, because I don't think Valorant had even got to the point where people understand the economy effectively. Like these third round buys, you know, when you win the second round and you keep a bunch of Spectres, people still haven't figured out what they want to do with them, whether they want to buy like Phantoms up with them or whether they just want to rush in with Spectres and Ghosts, and how the economy plays out. They haven't really figured out the best positions in which to save. You'll still see a lot of top teams committing to fights that when you look at the economy, you think probably years down the line, we'll look back at those VODs and think, well, why are you taking like a 3v5 fight where you're retaking without utility when you could just save? There's a lot of these economic decisions that have yet to really get absorbed into the understanding of the players, just because the game is new, right? And it's still a system that people are figuring out. So I don't think this is actively going to change how people play right now, because saving wasn't a large component of the meta anyway. People would just go for everything. But it's probably a healthy thing to have an extra layer to that decision, and not mean that you can just keep your economy great by playing retakes and just giving up a site and then saving afterwards.
Matt, do you think that this is going to kind of fall in line there? I kind of agree with Sideshow that this is just going to, it's going to be more of a factor in the decision making around saving or avoiding.
Yeah, I agree completely with Josh, and I feel like the best point is that I feel like we really haven't seen like CS, right? You kind of understand, like, it's been around for so long. The economy system has worked in that game pretty close to the same for a very long time. You kind of understand the situations and how to play them. Teams in Valorant and just even the general public has no idea at times. Like, are we upgrading off of these guns? Is that the right decision? Are we saving here? Are we fighting? It seems like everybody always wants to fight. A lot of times it seems like everybody has guns and the money's pretty good. So I think seeing these adjustments, I think it'll be more on the community to kind of get up to speed with the economy and try and figure out the optimal way to play every single round. And then I think that'll kind of lead changes down the road to even more different things with the economy, right? To balance around it.
I think so. I think that this is just, it's again, an adjustment that makes sense for, and probably won't impact too much, but we'll see how these changes kind of affect decision making, especially at the pro level as we move along. So aside from that, there's some bug fixes. Let's see what else we got left in this patch here, Daniel. I think there's not too much left here to talk about. So these changes, we have a little context here. These changes are intended to increase richness in decision making regarding when it is worthwhile to save your gear versus go for the round win. Okay, easy. We knew that. Minor improvements to observer flash indicator, new settings for observers, quality of life stuff. I don't think there was anything too critical in here, but we'll make sure, because everyone wants to know exactly what the important stuff is. Oh, left-handed view model. I think that was the last one that I think a lot of people were talking about.
Yeah.
That's shout out to the lefties. May they feel more comfortable with where their model is facing. And for those people who change their sensitivity crosshair, they now have something else to adjust when things just aren't going their way. The sourcing of the hitching and stuff like that is being worked on. I know that's been a hot topic recently as well.
Well,
did you have something to
if
add?
If they revert this patch, we may not see the hitching go out, right?
No.
I mean, it sounds like from what I see on Twitter, Supercakes from Riot said, yikes, we absolutely see the issues you're seeing in this patch. We agree things are not in a good state, especially with the upcoming qualifiers today. More info coming very soon on our intended solution. So maybe it is a rollback. I mean, I think if you're gonna roll this back, it's kind of interesting. It's like, well, when does this come? Like this patch, right? Because it does have Skye in it. I mean, they're gonna have to push it in right away, right? Whenever they can kind of get this stuff sorted. But Yeah, I mean there are some good quality of life changes in there. Probably just won't see them today if you log into game.
Yeah. And some
Yeah.
of them are important for First Strike as well, because some of them are to do with observing. Like they actually
Yeah.
made it a bit clearer when they used flashes, and they changed the colors of different teams as well, so that one team is always red and the other is always teal. So these are also changes that won't get pushed through exactly when intended.
Well, I will say that even though that the logistics of this is probably a nightmare, most other game companies, regardless of what was happening, would be like, "F it, we're doing it live, okay? Deal with it, nerds." So we'll see what happens. We'll keep you updated as we find out as the show goes along. But we can't just sit here and wait. We have more things to talk about, specifically Skye and Icebox, which may or may not be in the game in 2 hours. So we've heard questions on when new agents and maps would be esports ready. Oh, hell yeah. As we've communicated to teams and players, new agents will be available after 2 weeks in rank queue and new maps 4 weeks in rank queue. This means, barring any major issues, our new agent Skye will be eligible for use in first strike qualifiers starting November 9th, and Icebox will enter the official tournament rotation on November 24th. Which means we will have Skye and Icebox for the finals. I think I'm excited for that. What about you guys, Matt? Are you excited to see Icebox in before the final?
I am. I think they needed an extra map. I think if you're going to do best of 5 series later in the tournament, you need at least 5 maps. I think for your first go, I think because obviously this is going to be a large moment for Valorant just overall as a game, not even an esport, right? Where there are going to be people from different games, different communities tuning in, seeing what it's about. Finding out that it only has 4 maps and that you play the same map multiple times potentially in a series, I think is an ideal for like the community and what they're trying to go after. So I think you absolutely need that 5th map. It's 100% a must-have, which I think there's a lot of back and forth on whether Icebox like is kind of feels like a great map to have in the rotation, but I think it's just vastly different with verticality. Never see verticality in a game like this. And then the agent, I think the 2-week window is fine. That's what you see in a lot of other games. I think it's also another thing where you're trying to align it with the regular player base. The player base has been playing with it for a month. Not to see it played in competitive play or at the highest level till like potentially like December at this point would be really odd.
Right.
I also think you would make it very difficult for the pro players to get any type of games in, right? Because if you're going to play, I know, any type of ranked or whatnot, like Skye will most likely be in there for better or worse. So to kind of have to force them into custom lobbies into like pro pugs with only players who are playing without it, I think could be kind of weird for a bit. So I think these are the best decisions for this tournament.
This kind of reminds me of like you get a flat tire and you're going down the list of people you can call to come and help you. And like, okay, we have Haven, Bind, Ascent, like who
Haven again.
Who else do we call? bring in Icebox. That's I kind of feel that this is going to be, it's exciting because if we have a really great final series, the deciding map, I promise you, is going to be Icebox. So I don't know, Josh. I kind of feel like this map is a very controversial in a way of how it's not controversial in how it's designed, but from attack FPS, verticality is always one of those, like, it's like it's the 4th dimension in FPS. Like I only look left and I only look right. Now I have to look up and down as well. Like what the hell,
Yeah.
So I don't know how it's gonna play. But what is your anticipation for what Icebox is going to look like a couple of weeks down the road when it's in the damn tournament?
It's really hard to know, actually. Like, even if you just take the basics of, is it going to be favored towards attackers and defenders? I found that question really hard to answer, even because, especially with the changes to Killjoy, where she can't just leave the turret just at spawn, kind of covering all of the flanks. Icebox is designed very differently to all the other maps, where the bomb sites themselves are enormous, but the connective tissue between them, between mid and like the actual depth of the map, is really short. So to get from one spawn to another through mid is really fast. to be able to flank behind people is really quick. And if you don't have that awareness, which you can't really get with Cypher because there's too many avenues to try and trip, and you can't maybe get with Killjoy anymore because they are planning to change her where, you know, she's only active within 40 meters away from the Killjoy herself. You're in a position where I think the defenders will be able to flank a lot, and the attackers are having to cover all of these angles. So you're like, all right, this is a defender-sided map then. Presumably it's going to be really difficult for the attackers. But once you get the spike down, it is impossible to retake. It is a ridiculous map for running retakes. It is so different to all the other maps in the game. All the other maps in the game, you can run retake on at least one of the sites. Sometimes both of the sites, you could try and run a retake strat, and it would be super viable with the utility that you have available. Not on Icebox. I mean, unless the pros are playing it in a totally different way to anything that I've seen, which is very possible. The retakes seem incredibly hard to be able to pull off. So I think it could end up being attackers sided, honestly, because the executes, if you can pull off some basic stuff and get the spike down, post plant play is very, very powerful.
I think that it's going to take time regardless. There might be some teams that come out ahead on Icebox in the same way we saw Ascent and Sentinels have some interesting dynamics when that first came out. It's going to take a little bit, but to have it show up in the middle of a qualifier is exciting, at least for as a spectator. Maybe not so much for the competitors, but that remains to be seen. That's our benefit, not theirs. So we also have a new skin that you can spend money on. I personally, cool. I've seen these. Apparently Josh is a fan. I think these look better animated than they do in this graphic. Purple, definitely a big fan favorite. We have the Reaver skin set, all purple. Now we have Singularity, all purple. Jesus, even the Prism set, basically all purple as well. Purple all the way. The knife looks cool. Do you have money? Buy some skins. If you don't have money, probably don't. But that's kind of the choice you have right now. Or if you want to go to the true free to play model, get your parents' money and spend it on Singularity skin sets. They're easy peasy, best of both worlds.
Free to play forever.
Free to play forever. You know what? They're honestly though, like from a design and cadence standpoint, are crushing the free to play model as far as like quantity and cadence of new content to purchase or test or play with or experience. It's all there, and realistically, I can't imagine a company that has more experience in this model than Riot does. So I'm not particularly shocked, but it's also nice to see compared to some other free to play titles that are clearly just after your wallet. Shout out to every single mobile game that exists. Roster moves. Let's talk about it. We have the biggest one, in my opinion, is C9 White. So this is formerly Team MAJKL. They had some high profile wins, specifically at one of the Ignition series. I think it was the FTW tournament, if I recall correctly. This is comprised of Alexis Marie, Annie Dro, Jazzykins, Katsumi, and Mel. These are all high level competitors. They're already.
My suspicion is that our initiators should feel stronger, and our sentinels should. I think there's two.
Daniel, you're playing the wrong clip. There we go. Let's see. Let's see. So this is the intro clip. Very well done. I love the animations. It looks great. And I really wanted to avoid this conversation, but it's, you know, obviously the low hanging fruit is it's one of the only, I believe, signed all female teams in esports at all, and I believe the only one in Valorant now, especially with an organization like Cloud9. Who has a lot of women in very important positions. I believe Nuki is going to, or Naki. I don't know how to say her name properly, but Nuki. Yeah, okay. So she's going to be the general. She's a general manager, and she's going to be handling this team as well as their Overwatch team, I believe, as well. So this is an organization that's taken a great first step here, giving these ladies the resources they need, as well as the social support and everything else that comes along with being in an organization. But I guess now the question is how many damn Valorant teams is Cloud9 intending to field? They have their main roster, I guess we'll call it, or their blue roster, which is the one we are most familiar with Tens and company. And then you have C9 White, which is this team. And you also have C9 Korea, who has a team in Valorant as well. So that's now 3 separate teams, and obviously the C9 Blue and White likely won't be crossing paths with the Korean team until down the road. But there is a better than zero chance that C9 White and C9 Blue trip over each other at some point in the near future. And one of the discussions we were having before we launched or before we went live here is the notion that way back in League of Legends, there was a situation where it was Samsung Blue and White that was both run by Cloud9 that it was basically said you can't do this anymore. And it was said even by Kasra in one of our interviews where they wanted to avoid a situation where org versus org would happen again. But this is a unique situation, and I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts, and we'll start with Matt.
Yeah, no, I think this is great for the scene in general, right? Counter-Strike had a pretty big, female scene in terms of like competition. I think Valorant is a game that is just like that, ripe for this type of competition and having more female supported programs and whatnot. And I think it's awesome you see them going into First Strike here. They win their first 2 games. They look really strong. I would not want to see like this kind of just because it's like 2 orgs, like the same org in the same tournament, like kind of be put a stop to that. Like I think that would just be kind of crappy. I think they found an awesome org to support them. I expect this team to be in tons of tournaments moving forward. I think just because they have another team with the same org, I think it's different if you saw it like be a little bit more on like the malicious side where it's like Cloud9 has like 8 teams, right? And they're just trying to sign like, a bunch of teams and just kind of enter the tournaments. But like it's only 2 teams. I don't really find it that big of a deal.
I don't think.
I think it would be.
But go ahead.
I think it would be a big deal if Cloud9 had actually signed like another team that was like, I don't know, if they had signed China Wind, for example, and they were just trying to hedge their bets to see if they could get a top squad. But I don't think the Riot has made any public statement on this. But I think that the Cloud9 aren't stupid. They must have people that are talking to Riot about this situation where they own a blue team, a Korean team, and now the all women's team as well. So you
think they get a discount of some kind? Like you get buy 2 teams, get your third one free or something like that?
I don't think so. It seems unlikely, but I think it's something that if you read between the lines here, there seems to be something that Cloud9 feel comfortable about doing this kind of behavior. Now, whether that's because they haven't decided on which team to go for, I don't know, but it seems more likely to me that Riot are trying to incentivize organizations to also pick up all women teams, because anyone with half a brain cell wants more women in gaming. Literally anyone with half a brain cell. It is so stupid to be like an exclusionary community that is excluding 50% of the world's population from playing esports. It is absolute nonsense. It's so much better if we can have more women who are playing the game in order to see more people at the top level, if anything. And so you don't want to limit organizations to having to pick between supporting women in gaming and having a top team potentially. Yeah, exactly. Now, C9 White are different because they are genuinely a team that's like being able to compete at that tier 2. We don't really know what their ceiling is, but at least at the moment, from what they've done in qualifiers, they look like a solid tier 2 team that's been ravaging their opponents. So you don't really have to pick and choose, but you don't want to put organizations in a position ever where they have to pick and choose. So I think this is a great situation, assuming that this is something that Cloud9 know, where they have been able to do both at the same time.
And it also just drives up.
Go ahead, Matt.
No, I was going to say it also just drives awareness to the fact that there are female Valorant teams out there, right? Where an organization like Cloud9, like as big as Cloud9, like picks up this team. I know maybe it kind of makes some of the other top orgs in the scene think about it, then go out and try and find and sign more female teams.
I think Dignitas just gets more females playing.
I think Dignitas also has a women's team. Why do I think it's either Dignitas or Gen G? Why do I think it's one of the black and gold teams?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Dignitas. They have a team called Dignitas Female, which is a really weird name for a team, but that's
girl.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's one way to do it. Yeah. At least C9 didn't opt for go for like pink or something like that. Jesus Christ. I don't. So as far as the problem, the perceived problem, I don't think there is one. Most people, again, the people without the 2 brain cells are going to be like, well, you know, if they should be treated equally with males, and if C9 has an all-female team, they shouldn't be allowed to have an all. Oh, shut the fuck up. Okay, it's not.
Yeah.
It's different. Okay, it's
treat
different.
them competitively the same when people treat them the same in ranked. When people have the same
exactly.
When people treat people exactly the same across ranked, then you can start getting rid of systems to increase diversity.
Instead of trying to like figure out a way to explain around the perceived problem, how about we all just, and this is not, you know, pointed at any of us here, but let's just move on with our lives and let's see how it goes. I would love to see the support. I think it's very important to have organizational support for women. I think it's this is a talented team. This is not some showpiece. These are talented people that will fuck your shit up in both matchmaking as well as in the server. So
it's actually incredible how competitive they are, in my opinion, because it genuinely is rare to have a large amount of women at the top level of an esports scene for a variety of reasons, you know, because a lot of it is cultural. You know, people don't give women the same kind of video games when they're a kid, so they don't get into it. It's a players, it's a numbers game, etc., etc. But it is rare to have a lot of women at the top of any esports scene. And the fact that this team has a number of players that you could pick out and throw into a bunch of tier 2 and maybe tier 1 teams, and they would be able to flourish and succeed. And the fact that they've all come together and found this roster together and they're having success in first strike qualifiers, this is awesome. This is wonderful to see. They're actually going to match up against some really good tier 2 teams on their path through the first strike qualifier. And I think they've got a pretty decent fighting chance of being able to make it through to the top 8.
I hope so.
Top 16 of this first qualifier. It would be insane if they managed to make it through to the top 8 of first strike NA.
That would be so sick. That would be so sick.
White merchandise left and right, and white is not my color. Yeah. So I would I love it. I from a story perspective, I want to remove all barriers. Let's go. Yeah. Let's move forward and see how it goes. But I've been excited for this part, which is why I'm going to move on now. Bonk has been picked up by David Beckham, also known as Guild. So the Guild Esports generated some news recently because David Beckham put in like 20 million euro, or I wasn't really following it that closely, but anyway,
why would David Beckham from the UK be putting in euros?
Excuse me.
Obviously, that's the currency.
He's also American,
all of Europe,
by the way. So he's burnt his British passport, I'm sure. As now all of his, you know, he got his I don't know what he's doing. He's being David Beckham somewhere, and he's buying esports teams. That's what happened. So they picked up Bonk. So for those of you who have followed Bonk, they are now called Guild. And now let's watch this announcement video, which I'm very excited for. In a world
brothers, we're almost there. We've answered the call.
No.
And we go to fight.
No.
And we fight for Guild! For Guild! Yeah! Cut! Cut! Director! Powell! We said the boat, not me. Thank you, Lisa. We said the boat. Please, I want to go home, guys. I want to go home. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, look at Leo, my brother Leo, for example. Like, he's 16. You put a beard on his face. He looks like Shy at La Booth, whatever it's called, from Transformers. And my brother William, like a wildling from Game of Thrones. Please, why did you put me through this? And Lord Mayor in town, we have him on the boat as well. Nice. Honestly, I'm Bonker. Well, he could be in Vikings. I get that. And I do kind of look flawless in this. I get that too. But honestly, I'm just tired. Why can't we just run highlights like the rest of the teams? Honestly, just run them. Give me a ladder and run.
I don't want to talk. I want to watch the rest of this in stone silence.
You just want to keep watching it. I loved this video.
Yeah, it's genuinely one of the best.
I can see where the budget's
videos
going.
I've ever
I can
seen.
see where the budget's going. Thank you, David Beckham, for that.
Yeah. Also, the acting from Yassine, like genuinely
It's incredible.
Oscar level acting.
Yeah.
It really is good.
At first, I was afraid, and then I was petrified. But you know what? Now that I can see that we're all on the right side here, which is good job for Bonk. I liked it. They definitely hooked me. I thought that they were going to be serious. So, like, having not seen it, I was like, no, like, because you know, when you have people who are not endemic to esports coming into esports, they generally hire other people who have no idea what the fuck they're doing.
Oh yeah.
So I was fully expecting that to be like a serious ad there at the beginning with the
That's
whole.
why it's so
Viking
good.
situation.
It's such a bait and
Yeah,
switch.
no, that's
Yeah.
true. They definitely hooked me there. So shout out to the Guild Esports team there. I was very concerned that we were going to be going through the whole, like, them storming of some sort of like theoretical beach, I guess, as Vikings, and probably fucking up the English, which is what the Vikings were doing. So
Yeah, creating English in the end.
all right. Well, congrats to Bonk. Good luck to Guild, and let's talk about First Strike, which is the meat and potatoes of what we've been wanting to talk about for most of today. We do have the upcoming qualifiers. Just as a quick recap before we jump into the meat of what's already happened. Let's talk about EU, which has not started yet. So this is going to be starting on the 9th of November, right around when Icebox and Skye are available for competitive play. Did I get that wrong, or is it December? I must be wrong. And so it seems way too close for that to be true. So we have qualifier A, qualifier B. It's the same format. Top 8 and then eventually top 4 from both sides of the bracket go on into the main event. We also have the CIS quals, which are similar except with less steps and harder for me to read because it's in Cyrillic and I don't read Cyrillic. We also have Asia Pacific, Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, also known as the APAC region. A lot of words here. So the event group stage registration qualifiers on the 7th to 8th, group stage 21st to 22nd, and regional finals December 3rd to 6th. They also have some stream information there as well. And we also have the Middle East and the Gulf Cooperation Council, Levant, Egypt, North Africa, Middle East and North Africa, I suppose would be the full thing there. So yeah, these are all the qualifiers that are happening. If you want to watch the North African teams and the Middle East teams play, there are your schedules. Rip your sleep schedule if you want to stay up for everything because you're going to be all over the place. Sideshow, are you planning to watch the Middle East tournaments? I know you're a connoisseur. You don't miss anything.
Yeah, I do enjoy watching everything, but those kind of regions genuinely are the kind of regions where I think people should pay attention if they see a dominant team. Like if you see a dominant team just blitz through the entire Middle Eastern tournament or North African tournament, go back and watch the VODs of them. Like see how good those players are, see how good the individual players are as well, especially if you're a talent scout in the scene or somebody that's looking to build a roster. You might find a gem that is just hidden in a scene like that, where there's far less competition and far lower player base. That's what those are really good for, in my opinion, is trying to find those hidden talents. It is a scouting paradise out there right now with all of the massive open brackets.
I think you're right. And we're probably going to see teams blitz through there in some of these, I'm going to say lesser regions, but that's, I didn't mean they're not this lesser people by any stretch, but they're lesser regions. And we're going to see probably some teams come out flying and some other ones maybe kind of flounder in. We'll see what happens. The first round is going to be the brutal one for all these teams, and then we'll see who the highlights are, the superstars are as we get through the qualifiers. I kind of wish we had bumped this segment up a little bit further, but we're going to rewind a little bit, rewind back a little bit and talk about C9 White again. So with C9 White being announced, there is obviously going to be a lot of reactions to that up and down the idiot scale, from the normal human being who says, yay, good, congratulations, awesome, like all these normal looking people. And then we have this which I will read to you now. Is this supposed to be a girl-only fan team? I'm not even trying to be a sexist, but I'm not even trying to be a sexiest, but girls are so much more emotional to deal with in a stress competitive environment, not to say.
So stupid.
Not a lot of female gamer are better than gamer boys, lol. I don't think this team is serious.
God, I'm glad he considers himself a gamer boy because he really, really
I should go
acting
do
like it
something
out
else.
here.
Yeah.
This is also the
girl.
kind of
He said female gamer and then followed it up with gamer boy.
yeah, very odd terminology. I mean, this is the kind of same stuff that used to be said about women in chess as well. Before any women got to the top level in chess, they're way too emotional. They can't rationally think about these situations, etc., etc. And then there's like Julia Polgar who just wrecks everybody up to the top level. It becomes a top 10 player, and then it's like, oh well, actually no, there's no biological reason. It's because you've been culturally pushing them down and pushing them away from the game for so long.
There's a study that was done. I don't know if we have this. It doesn't matter if we have it. This is something that I've been referencing. It's like the scientific study done back in 2015. Insights into sexism, male status and performance moderates female-directed hostile and amicable behavior. This is a scientific study that I'm not going to make you read the whole thing because there's a lot. It's very well done, but I'm gonna paraphrase this all the way down, which is those weak beta male dudes who suck at video games have a much higher likelihood of striking out at female gamers because the fact that the females are outperforming them threatens their already shitty status, and that similarly skilled or higher skilled males recognize skill and support that skill much higher. So most of the time, the people that are saying this shit are bad video gamers and insecure knuckleheads on the internet, which I'm sure will shock nobody. But I really do recommend you guys, if you want to see more insight into male behavior around skilled females in gaming, this study is excellent. And also really boils it down to like the core of it's because you suck and you can't handle it. And you have to go to the lowest hanging fruit, which is talking about the fact that females are inferior, which is ridiculous. Speaking of which, insecure morons, we also have one more entry into this segment, and that is a Brazilian player, MAJKL Fuchs, or Fox. According to an article just published by Riot, this guy, Brazilian player who was recently released from Black Dragons BR for sexist comments during a live stream, is banned from all First Strike related events. And for those of you who are wondering, this team lost to an all-female team, and this guy went on to state that he was going to do all sorts of horrific things to them. Don't want to say explicitly what. And the fact that I can't not say explicitly what he said should give you an indicator as to just how bad it was. And actually, you know what? I'm not going to beep it. Fuck that guy. That's it. So don't be fucking weird and just C9 White super fans unite. I want to see them go all the way. Before we jump into the meat and potatoes again of what is now ongoing and has already been accomplished in First Strike, we're going to take a very, very short break, and then we're going to dive into Turkey, Oceania, Brazil, North America, everybody, and including Korea when we come back. So don't go anywhere. You're watching Valoranting. Welcome back to Valoranting. I'm with Matt and Josh. And now it's time to talk about First Strike, where we have Turkey, Oceania, Brazil qualifiers, and North America and Korea already underway. So let's jump right into it. Turkey. I want to see. This is Oxygen, by the way. Oh, Toronto. I know that city.
Yeah.
This is what appears to be a one-sided shit stomping, 11-4 currently, which I'm sure we're going to see a lot of in the First Strike qualifiers first round. I did see a great clip on Reddit of some kid, I think, who was losing to C9 like 10-3 or something like that, pull off a 1v5 ninja defuse and just lost his mind, which is always special to see. And I think there's going to be some great moments there where we have just your regular high tier players like Radiant players or whatever making teams and trying to get after some of these qualifiers. So in Turkey, I think Oxygen has been one of those teams that just, has caught the radar a little bit. We even have Hayes Clan, the capital Z and everything.
Pretty good.
I like it.
I wonder where they got that name from.
Yeah. I mean, like, phase. What else can we come up with? Hayes, easy peasy. So let's take a look at the. So is that the only results that we have? Is that the only 2 games that have been played?
No, those are the 2
it?
upper semifinals. It was
Upper
like
semifinals. I see. So that's
double elimination bracket. The 2 teams that won there though are facing off in like 18 hours, and those 2 teams are both really good. Those 2 teams are like tier 2 Europe, and they're genuinely good Turkish teams. Like the Turkish scene has got some talent in it, and those 2, Oxygen and BBL Esports, are the top Turkish teams. So that game should be really good. You're expecting one of those 2 to win it, so this is a good first showing as they clash in the opening qualifier.
There you go. I'm glad you know something about them because I sure don't know anything. So I'm going to lean on Matt's Brazilian knowledge here. Speaking of Brazil, well, actually, we probably shouldn't lump them into the previous topic of conversation. But we have, I guess, the only team that stands out to me here is the Red Canids, Canids, Game Landers and Bottom Fraggers, because they're the only ones with Wikipedia entries. That's what I know.
The one team we talked about yesterday when we did Plat Chat was that the Pain Gaming squad, the No Org 2.0, that Brazilian team, which has been playing really strong against some of the top Brazilian teams. They have not qualified yet. So that would be a bit of a shock if they don't get through for the next one. Features a former Overwatch competitor, Ole, and a few other Brazilian players who they formed a little bit late, but they've really been crushing it lately in that region.
Yeah, they recently just got signed. There's been 2 of the close qualifiers that have happened as well. And so the Brazilian scene is like halfway through its qualification process. And there's still 2 of the big top 7 teams that still haven't made it through because it's a huge BO1 bracket kind of thing. And that's with a lot of different attempts. So when I look over at Europe and I see that there's BO1s all over the place, all the way, you better believe there's going to be some massive upsets happening over there as well. And like teams who are genuinely at the top, like we know that Pain Gaming and B4 are up at the top of the Brazilian scene, but neither of them have actually. B4 have made it through. It's Vivo Keyed that haven't made it through. I think those are the 2 of the top teams in Brazil that haven't made it through the bracket yet because they just got unlucky with who they met right at the end. They met other top teams right towards the end, and the Brazilian scene is so close when it gets to that top 5, top 6. So they just got unlucky in that sense.
You're gonna get a tough matchup early on, and BO1s in Europe at this point are like 2 peas in the pod. So I really hope that I really hope to see some.
I don't know why they did.
I'm sure the European players have been giving such positive feedback about the BO1s. That must be why they keep
happening. Like every damn time, they're like, "This is brutal. Why are you doing this to us?" And they're like, "Well, because that's what we do.
Why not?"
So aside from the Brazilian qualification results, we also have the Oceanic results as well. These are the upcoming qualifiers. They have started. And they also have not started, at least in the second qualifier, which appears to be this weekend coming up. So that we'll have some results, probably from the first qualifier. Let's see if we have those ready. Kanga. All right. There they are. Okay, Josh, pop quiz. Who's the best team in Oceania?
There was like Team Launch was really good, but I think they just got signed by someone recently. So I'm wondering whether that is Kanga. I'm not sure actually. No, I don't think it is because I don't recognize their players. I haven't watched very much Oceania. I tuned in a little bit, and there was 2 top teams. One was called like I think they got signed by Order actually. That like famous Australian organization. I think they signed Team Launch, and then there's another team called like what are they called? Like
I'm familiar with like Athletico and Chiefs and stuff like that.
Not the Exo Clan team.
Yeah, it's like Exo Clan and Launch were the 2 top teams, and I think one of them just got signed by Order. I think it was the Team Launch that got signed by Order. Yeah, I'm not very familiar with the Oceanic region, but again, that's one of them where I'll go back and watch the VODs and see whether the level of competition is really strong, especially because that happens so often in CS, right? Where they pluck out a couple of good players from the Australia or New Zealand region and slot them in elsewhere because they speak English.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I can't wait to see what team qualifies from Oceania, so we know what team is getting picked apart by other organizations. So let's move on to the all-important, the all-encompassing, the most important region in the entire world, North American qualifications, ongoing. Here's a very this chart does not
Very
flow,
simple
Nerd Street.
chart.
Very simple. Okay, wait a second. So we have qualifier number 1 goes against qualifier number 2, but do 4 teams of qualifier number 1 and top 4 of qualifier number 2. 5th to 8th from qualifier number 1 goes over to qualifier number 2. They all come down to the main
Yeah, that
event,
makes
which is on
perfect
December
sense to
3rd.
me.
It makes sense. To me
Yeah,
too.
I read
Let's
it
just move
fine.
on from this. Thank you, PUBG Corporation, for making this chart. So let's see the qualifiers as they are currently. There is a lot to take in here. Basically, everybody you expected to make it so far has made it.
I mean,
I don't think
actually
there's any
the only
upsets
big upset.
aside from Beast Coast. Beast Coast did not win their qualifier.
Yeah, Beast Coast
is
and
there
also
anyone else
Time In. Ninja's team
Okay.
Time
Yeah,
In
Ninja's
lost to
team.
Noble, which I thought was I mean, it's not a huge upset, but I was kind of hoping for them to be able to meet TSM. They were about to meet TSM today, and instead we have TSM versus Noble. I think that would have been
Okay. So
a
so
fun
TSM
clash.
gets to destroy Noble instead of destroying Team Ninja.
Yes, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, maybe not. I don't know. Like who's on? Like Noble's a proper. I know. I remember their announcement, but I don't remember who's on their team. But Beast Coast didn't win, and I guess Time In didn't win either. Speaking of which, this is a complete tangent. But has anyone seen Ninja's sneakers?
Yeah.
Because
No.
they don't look very good. That's in my opinion.
See,
But
I
I think they're for children, so that's also a caveat.
I kind of like him. I think it's dope.
I
Kind of
love
like
He's
him.
got an Adidas
Like,
shoe,
like,
bro.
do you have any
we can't.
children?
We can't not. Don't. No children here. But I mean, bro, we can't. He can't. You can't. I mean, the guy's got an Adidas shoe. Like
He's
it
got
could
shoes.
be the
No, I
ugliest
get
shoe
it.
of
No,
all
no, I'm
time.
not saying like
it's
from,
dope.
but I get it. Okay, but I'm because I am an enlightened esports mind. Okay, I'm not going to
Yeah.
say that because he has a shoe that the shoe is bad. I'm saying the shoe looks bad. Okay, I think that it's great. That
Are
he
we
has a
judging
shoe.
the old one or the new one? There's like an old
No, I
one
just
that's
saw
like
one that he posted
blue
on
and
Twitter.
it
It was like there was like gray and black and white and red and like it definitely looks like something. It
he's-
definitely looks affordable. I will say that. Wait,
He's got a
Daniel, I know
new
that
one,
like
yeah.
I'm just totally torching you around a show, but can we get a fucking picture of Ninja sneakers really quick, please? This is very important. This is very important. Yeah, deal with
Yeah.
it.
Part of
so
me
while-
wants
while
Ninja
we-
to
while
start
we
his own
get
org.
photos of Ninja sneakers. Do you anticipate any other teams that are notable struggling in the first open qualifier in your mind, Matt?
Yeah.
I think there are a few. We were watching some of the games yesterday, and I think one of the teams that that we thought would probably be a little bit better than what they were was NRG. They had some close games. They played I would say T1-esque, very
That's not the
slow.
one.
This is Ninja's Superstar shoe.
not the one.
That's clean. That's
That
clean.
one's not bad. There's a different one. Hold on a
Yeah.
minute. You guys talk. I'm gonna do some quick host research.
Moses
NRG
is just scribbling
NRG,
over it in
yeah.
MS Paint, trying to make it look worse.
He's trying to make it look a ninja shoe. I think some of the teams that we didn't see play for a bit that kind of added some of the older kind of Counter-Strike talent looked to playing a little bit slow. I think we saw the NRG did that. T1 seemed to play pretty much the exact same way we saw in the Renegades qualifier, just playing a little bit further back, a little bit more passive, sending Spy to the same places over and over and over again. I think those two teams you would be a little bit worried about. I think those are the two that are on the top of my brain from what we saw yesterday.
I saw that shoe.
Josh?
I know nothing about shoes. It's blue and yellow, mate. It's fine. I don't know.
Hold on a minute. Oh, did they put it up? I was researching. Put it up again.
Yeah.
Not
Look at
those.
that.
Hold on a
Yeah.
minute. I'm going back. I'm
Not
going back on the
those.
timeline.
How many shoes does he have?
He's got a lot of shoes.
Dude, he's got a
man. That's what
ton.
I'm trying to say. One of the colorways
Fuck.
sucks. That's what I'm trying to say.
Doesn't-
It was one of his.
If
it
a
was
man
one of his
has so
teammates.
many shoes, so that
Oh,
so
like,
that only
listen,
one of them is bad.
This is the only thing I can critique
shoes.
in Ninja's entire
Yeah.
career is like one of the colorways of his Adidas shoes. Like whatever. Who the fuck cares what I think? Okay, let's get back.
I've got some teams for you though. I've got some teams that could be
Post on-
upset here for you most.
Tell me.
In round 3. Okay, Immortals plays against Xset, who are actually a pretty decent up and coming tier 2 team that have some serious upset potential here. They were formerly known as the Pretty Boys. They just won the most recent NSG Open tournament, or whatever they call them, by beating Moon Raccoons 2-0. Now, that was Moon Raccoons without Sean, but I seriously think that this match has upset potential, and we could see Exet beating Immortals here. I wouldn't say that it's likely. They're still the underdogs, but you could see Immortals lose to Exet here and not make it into the next step of the qualification. And then you would see Gen G face against Exet. Like, that whole side of the bracket gets a little wonkier. So that's definitely somewhere where I could see a potential upset. Even though I don't think NRG are playing particularly well, they should still be able to beat Complexity. So I don't think that that's particularly poor or particularly tough for them. 100 Thieves get their first test as well against Moon Raccoons. And I know that a lot of people have been gassing up 100 Thieves after their performance yesterday, but I want to see them play against a team that that pushes them at all. And so this will, I don't think there's going to be an upset potential there, but at least it'll give us our first good test of how good 100 Thieves actually are. If they crush Moon Raccoons, that is really impressive. If they play them close and maybe even lose a map, well, now you're starting to see them actually get tested, and maybe you're seeing their accurate level a little more. So that's a good litmus test as well.
I think that's the big one for me, is just watching to see how newly oh, here we go. There we go.
Those are fly, dude.
No, they're not.
You don't like those?
No, I don't. I don't. Maybe am I a boomer? Is
this
like boomer opinion?
I got like dad shoe. I got dad shoe Yeezys and stuff. So maybe I'm just a little bit.
They look like Lego shoes.
I
like
colors, Daniel. Look on the bottom alternate color one down there. Yeah, see that?
Yeah, that bottom color. I don't think I would get those.
There we go. That's, you know, if you're going in with still not doing it for me. They just seem so.
I like the first colorway better for sure.
You think so? Let's see another quick
the first colorway.
Here.
I think that's better. Yeah.
It reminds me of like an old school Jordan a little bit, like with the with way less style, I think is the word I'm looking for.
It's got the Time In on it. He should just make Time In his own official org.
Listen,
the ninja
again, this
dominate.
is the lowest hanging for I would.
The entire sneaker movement is
with my name on it. Okay. You know what's that?
Man,
Josh doesn't like sneakers.
I hate sneakers, man. They look shite. All sneakers look shite. Is that a hot take? Just get some leather on your boots and
plain black tee over here talking about style. Just quick. As I wear
it's timeless.
Like, we're just three balding white guys. Well, actually,
Moses, look at how that guy.
Guys wearing video game.
I was gonna say, look at how he grooms. Like you have the beard all nice. Like look at Josh. Look at how he grooms, and he's saying that those sneakers are bad. Come on now.
I have no style, nothing, no leg to stand on.
The guy's eaten like 70 cans of Pringles Wavy in the last month, and he's commented on Ninja's shoes.
Not in the last month.
What does 70 cans of Pringles Wavy do to one's digestive system? I'm really interested to know. Like,
what does it do to their back table? What?
It powers me.
Anyway,
don't know.
Moses.exe is failing here. I need to continue. I don't even know why Pringles. Why Pringles Wavy? Is there, aside from the sponsorship,
they were a sponsor of the Overwatch League, so they just sent us a bunch of free ones, and I thought, what should I do with these? Give them to a food bank? Oh, they're all empty, mate. They're all gone.
Oh.
Yeah, those are gone.
So
those are eaten.
What you're looking at there is 62,000 calories turned into an art exhibit. So, I'm not proud of it.
Okay.
Except I am.
I have a lot of questions, but I just don't think we have the time. So we're gonna have to follow along with 100 Thieves. I want to see the. I don't know how to circle back from this. So as far as 100 Thieves is concerned, obviously the first round of the qualifier should be a layup for these guys. But yeah, when we start hitting more mature opponents for this squad is when they really are going to be tested. I'm excited to see that. Especially if we have like an NRG, or even, man, it would be great to see like a really high level matchup in qualifiers, like a TSM 100 Thieves. I'm not sure what their bracket looks like and where their closest competitor of that nature is.
They actually do play TSM. Yeah, they would play TSM in the 2 rounds from now. So they played Moon Raccoons, then probably Dignitas, then probably TSM. So it kind of gradually ramps up, and we get to see a great understanding of like where they sit in the scene. Now, that's also assuming that people give a shit after the round of 16 where you've already qualified. Presumably, they're playing for seeding after that, and that just comes down to like how much teams really are invested in that and how much they want to show. But I would expect teams to still try because it helps you during the next round of qualification.
I think for a team like 100 Thieves as well, who hasn't had a ton of, well, really any tournament experience as a team, you would probably use those matches and try and push for a higher seed to avoid somebody really good early on in the tournament weekend, right?
I would say so.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Korea. This is interesting. Korea always does things a little bit more interesting. So they're doing a point system. So their top 4 is already decided for the closed qualifiers. Here it is a little bit more wordy. The process of advancing to first strike begins with the Valorant Clan Battle, herein referred to as Clan Battle. The Clan Battle is a top 128 online tournament that anyone 16 years of age or older can participate in, and takes place over a total of 4 times in October. Clan battles are held at 1800 every Tuesday in October, and the quarterfinals and finals are held at 7 every Wednesday in October. Broadcasting starts at 7 on both days. The final will be played in the third and second best, and the final will be played in third and second best, and other matches will be played in single. Oh, I see. First strike circuit points can be earned through performance in each round. After a total of 4 clan battles, the 24 teams with the highest cumulative circuit points will have a chance to compete in the first strike qualification. So here is the top 4. A lot of familiar faces. Oh, T1 didn't make it. So Vision Strikers, they are first by a large margin. They've been one of the best teams in Korea since the very beginning. We have ANG Dark Horse, Cloud9 Korea, Quantum Strikers. And yeah, so like these are all the top 4 qualified. And do we have the full standings as well? I think we do. Let's take a look. We don't have it. We don't have the full. Okay, I guess we don't have that yet. Vision Strikers.
It's also it's the top 24 teams here as well. So this was just the open qualifier portion. So all of these teams are in, plus way more.
Right, you're good call. Yeah, I did see that at the top there. So see, I there was someone in the chat saying that Moses never misses an opportunity to shit on T1, and now I'm leaning into it. So let's see. We also have some tweets. Oh, guess what? Look what it is. Korean Valorant. I'm going to do it in my best Josh Wilkinson voice.
Please
or
do.
I can just say, Josh, why don't you read this tweet back to me since you wrote it?
Oh, really? Do I have to do it in a Moses impression? I can't do it very
You
good
read it like
Canadian
me, or
accent.
I'll read it like you. You get those shoes.
Yeah, I said
Korean Valorant.
I was watching.
Wild.
I was watching Vision Strikers play
now
against
T1
T1.
are at the absolute forefront of developing utility combos. There's nobody else outside of maybe Sentinels and FPX who are even close to this teamwork and coordination with utility. So many mini plays all across all maps.
That definitely sounds like Josh to me.
That sounds like me.
I mean,
that was basically
it was
me.
just it was
Did I
a little
say
warm
that?
up. I maybe a little bit more.
I'm pretty sure I just said that. Yeah, the reason that I tweeted this, though, was because I was watching Vision Strikers play against T1. And we've all seen the Vision Strikers clips, right? These crazy set plays that they go for, etc., etc. And I saw them play against T1, and it was actually not in a clan battle at all. It was in the finals of a different tournament. And T1 had got them to the finals, and then they played different strats that we had never seen T1 use before. So, like, clearly they were saving stuff to be able to beat Vision Strikers in a big final. That's at least that's my thought process coming into that game, that they were hiding stuff ready for a big clash against Vision Strikers. And the different stuff that they were doing, it's a lot of 2-man, 3-man combo utilities to take portions of the map to be able to set up plays, this kind of stuff. And the Korean scene tends to be a little slower, so they have more time to be able to do that kind of stuff. You couldn't really run that in Brazil, where everyone's running at each other all the time. And especially in Europe, to some extent as well, where the defensive teams tend to be a bit more aggressive. But they definitely have innovated a lot of different stuff with T1 and Vision Strikers, where they are using the breach flashes in very creative ways, setting up boom bots and like timings on peaks, the jets entrying. There's a lot of the creative design of how you use strategy in Valorant is being pioneered over in Korea right now. And that's partly because they have the space to be able to do that, because they play a bit of a slower tempo. So they have the room to be able to set up their utility. But it's also because I think they just put in a lot of time in server prep beforehand and really put a focus on that instead of a focus on like mastering rotations and map control and stuff like that. It's just a different focus for their game.
Yeah. Why do you think, Matt, that Korea seems to be, and this is a very broad and probably difficult question, but Why do we see so much more innovation coming from Korean esports than we do in North America? Like, is there something that's in the water there? Like looking at Valorant in just a small kind of slice of that.
Yeah.
You know, Josh obviously tweeting about and talking about the set plays and the way they use their utility. Why is this seemingly a Korean trait? Why is it that we don't see the spontaneous strats and innovation in other regions?
I think just because, like, as you play games in NA, and I would even say like Europe as well, uh, you're more, I think, inclined to fall back on your individual mechanical skill and like skill set rather than rely on like teamwork and coordination. Like a lot of the time, that's what kind of gets notoriety, whether it's in NA or Europe, like, you know, being able to be flashy, you know, hit like crazy shots and whatnot. Where Korea has always been about winning and using like teamwork and the abilities and coordination to be able to win. It's never really about been one individual player that kind of like rises above. Where I think that's why you see them experiment more, try and get the best out of everybody with different ability combos and whatnot. Like we were talking a little bit yesterday about Cloud9 Korea. And they have Badgie and Munchkin, two former like Overwatch League players, but they also just announced yesterday that they've signed Pavane to be their head coach, which they were already playing quite well. It's kind of odd to replace the coach, but Pavane, a very talented coach, was the coach of the NYXL teams that were very strong. You can kind of see them leaning a little bit more into the abilities and combos to open up some of these sites to coordinate plays, make this happen, as opposed to, you know, kind of like how we all play games, whether it's like in NA or Europe. It's just like, well, just like aim better, just shoot them, you know, like just do better in that regard, right?
Right.
I think we think about the game a little bit in a more simpler manner than they do. I think they really think about it more in depth, more complex than we probably give it credit for.
I would also say that the
Josh-
North American scene as well just tends to run with what works. Like if they find something that works, they're going to run
They don't
with
move
it.
off
Like
of it.
yeah, because their goal is to win. And if they find, like, if TSM find that putting Wardell on Jet results in wins, they're not going to go to the drawing board over and over again and try and craft different strategies with different compositions. Because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's like a very NA way of thinking, I think, as well. Is
Right.
you know, and the people that play catch up tend to try and emulate the top teams rather than play different styles and try and beat them, because they're trying to learn from their peers rather than come up with their own stuff.
So instead of work smarter, not harder, it's like just work until you feel you don't have to work anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
a
why would
bit.
you put in the effort if it's not?
Yeah.
If you
I think
don't
you
have
can
it?
look at like
definitely.
you look at NA as just way more reactionary, right? Where they'll see what's going. They're not going to be the innovators, right? They'll look and see what's going on in like a Korea or Brazil, and they'll tinker with that and then kind of throw it into their game. But they're not going to be the first ones that come out and do it, right?
Unless it's
Again,
something mechanical.
this all kind of filters down to the need of international competition, where you have to see how they stack
Definitely.
up against each other.
Oh yeah.
So I guess one last thing on this topic, Josh, do you feel that since Valorant has launched, that Korean Valorant esports has quote unquote turned around from its kind of slow start, considering some of the issues that were occurring in PC Bangs, Vanguard, all those things? Do you feel that Korean Valorant is in a good place or still in a kind of gestative nature, or gestative state?
Well, the tide is starting to turn, but that doesn't mean that it's in a good state. Like, I don't even think that the top Korean teams would beat a lot of the other top NA and EU teams. I'm just saying that they're more innovative. Like, they're actually coming up with cool strategies. But that doesn't mean that their rifling skill is as good as everybody else. That doesn't mean that their map control game is as good as everybody else. They're defaulting, that kind of stuff. Like, there's a lot of different aspects to the game that aren't just how you use utility. And so the Korean scene, I think, has still got a long way to go in order to be a dominant region. Like, no one's saying that is going to happen. They just now have 3 teams when you consider Vision Strikers, T1, and Cloud9. And maybe that's a little unfair to ANG Dark Horse, who've been doing pretty well in the Clan Battle Acts as well. But it seems to me like there's 3 teams that have really taken the Vision Strikers mentality of being incredibly secure with their strats, and they've tried to work that into their team, and they've got good enough rifle and players to be able to pull it off to a pretty high level. But the Korean scene still doesn't have a large amount of players. It still doesn't have the best rifling in the world. There's still a lot of different stuff that could improve there and would improve if you gave them regular inter-regional battles as well. Obviously not a possibility at the moment, but when it does become a possibility, hopefully the Korean region will continue to develop, and this new wave of talent coming up will learn from the Vision Strikers and the T1s who are playing the strategic style, and they'll combine it with better fragging, and they'll actually become very powerful on the world stage. That's at least what I hope, because if Korea doesn't immediately become powerful, I don't think that people will want to play Valorant as much. You know, if they don't view it as a viable route to getting to the top of the game, then why would you spend your time in Valorant? Why wouldn't you spend your time in Overwatch or League of Legends or some other game that Korea is incredibly good at, you know, StarCraft, that kind of stuff. The Korean scene has to be good enough in order to attract the new wave of talent to that esport rather than another competing esport. So that's my hope, at least. And of course, Riot can still fix the Vanguard issue.
PC bombs,
That would be a massive help.
We'll see. And I think that's the ultimate concession you have to make is, do you want widespread access, or do you want your anti-cheat integrity to remain at the highest possible level? But that kind of does it for First Strike. Obviously, we're going to have a lot more, and I imagine next week is going to be like the First Strike Valoranting special. So we have a lot of First Strike stuff to talk about. Most of it still hasn't even gotten through the first half of the first half yet. So we're still right at the very beginning. And before we wind down the show, I did want to touch on a topic we have been covering for the last couple of weeks, which is this Trovo live GLL challenge. That thing happened where a bunch of people didn't get paid. So it seems here's Jake Lucky talking about it as well. So this is for those of you haven't been following along. This Trovo GLL challenge thing happened. It was a $10,000 tournament. It happened like months ago now. No one had been paid. There has been a series of increasingly stupid attempts to rectify it, specifically having them try and cash out their payment in Trovo gems, which, as it turns out, required an amount of viewers / followers on their Trovo account for it to even be accessible, which is just stupid. So apparently, at least one guy has been paid. Oh, I see how it is, KP. You want to suck up to Jake. I see how it is. Woke up with an apology direct from Trovo on my messages. They made sure all player accounts were whitelisted and that we can all cash out the proper amount. Okay, so they don't need the amount of followers or whatever, so that's good. And just you know, something might. And now I'm not trying to sound like I'm looking down the nose at $357 US. But why in the sweet fuck did it take like 5 months to sort out a payment of less than $500 US? Like, give me a break. Like, that's so ridiculous and petty. Not sure if the talent have been paid. I'm sure we can find that out. Not sure if any of the regulars are chilling around today, but I don't see Van Silly. They might be casting right now, but regardless, hopefully everyone's been paid. I was gonna say kudos, but no, this is the bare minimum. Actually, it's still below the bare minimum, but at least some people are getting some money. Which is, again, can't believe it took this long. So we also have one more thing to plug, and that is the charity D&D stream hosted by Do Not Peek, which is happening on Halloween, October 31st. We have a very special show. We've got Kelly Link, Malik Forte,
That's great.
Joseph Carruthers, also known as Tormented by Gnomes. It's me, JP, as well as DJ Wheat. This is an all-star cast here. We've got Red Sky City, Kill Process. Watch it. You got to watch it. October 31st, twitch.tv/DNP. You can follow us here. Obviously, it's going to start at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And it's going to be great. So make sure you guys come here. It's for a good cause, Gamers Outreach specifically, making sure that those kids out there have the gaming tools they need to keep themselves excited and happy, which is, of course, the only thing that anyone really cares about is making sure the kids are having fun. Josh and Matt, thank you so much for joining us this week. Any final words, Matt? Anything for the week in Valorant coming up?
I mean, I'm excited to watch the rest of First Strike. I think there was already a lot of suspense and build up towards some of these games. And now with what's going on with the patch today, is it going to be in? Is it going to be out? I'm just happy I'm not a competitor. I can watch and have fun with all the drama from the sideline of the comfort of my big gaming chair and my setup and just watch. So I'm excited to take in all the action that'll be going on today.
Absolutely. Josh,
That's
how about you?
actually
Anything you're looking forward to this week?
I mean, that's actually a normal sized gaming chair. It just looks big because Matt's sat in it and he's tiny. That's why he thinks it's a big gaming chair. Like bragging about how large it is.
Going at him.
Josh isn't bald either. That's a normal amount of hair.
Oh, damn. Okay. All right. Let's take it easy.
Oh, you're bald too. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, you're actually outnumbered here.
I'm actually not holding on to anything though. I've leaned into it.
Yeah, you've committed. I mean,
I've got the gamer tent actually now. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I do. I have gamer skull now.
I think everyone does. They've just got hair over it.
Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Can't wait to have you back on. Make sure you guys are following Do Not Peek on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube at Do Not Peek Entertainment. Thank you again. You can catch us next week where we'll be talking primarily about First Strike. I'm more than likely guessing there. So for next week, Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific time. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.